Hey, welcome back to Single Car Garage. We're at the shop. What are we doing? Let's see. We got the 327 back for the 65 Impala Super Sport. I need to get the flywheel on it. I need to get the motor mounts on it. And we needed to get it dropped in this car. Even though the owner didn't want to do anything on the engine compartment, I did go through and I've got rust converter on the fender wells, front support, and the back firewall, just so to look a little bit better in there. I'm not going to do the frame or anything. He didn't want to do it. I usually am somewhere around 1,500. This car here probably about 2,000 to detail the engine compartment. This is my 66 Impala. Now, a little over 20 years ago, this was detailed out. About 80,000 miles on it since it was detailed. But I took everything apart, detailed it, and put it back together. It still cleans up pretty nice for a driver, so I won't go back and do anything till I come back and repaint it. But it makes your engine look good. And every spring, I'll usually get in there and clean the frame up and stuff real good, which I haven't done anything this fall. But like I said, $1,500 to $2,000 to get everything painted and looking nice under the hood is usually what I charge. Now I've got this on. When you're torquing them, they torque at 65 pounds. You torque 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Star pattern. And I torque mine 3 times to make sure that they're all torqued right. Now when you're torquing, got it on the cherry picker and torquing it, you'll have to have a screwdriver to stop your flywheel from moving. And like I said, you want to use that star pattern. Get your torque wrench set at 65 pounds and wait for it to click. I got my flywheel torqued up. New motor mounts, because the old ones, this car was sold, they look good, but they were fairly dried out. It's a pretty cheap thing to do, to put new motor mounts on your car. And I'll usually put new lock washers on it too. Here comes Kate, our helper. I hope y'all took time to visit the video that we did at Camaro Central. Seen some really good looking Trans Ams, Firebirds, Camaros, the 2-lane blacktop 55 Chevy. Some really good looking cars. It was a short video, so I would take a look at it, show your friends some really good looking cars. If you're wanting 3rd gen parts, that is a great place to go. They have, Camaro parts in general. I use them for my 3rd gen stuff, and I've always been very happy with them. They're good to work with. If you look at their schedule, they go to a lot of shows, and you can call them and they can bring parts to you to the show, which knocks out the shipping charges. So they're good guys to deal with. I think you would like them. If you're ever in Richmond, Kentucky, stop by and see them. Great place to go, great place to visit. So stop by there and enjoy it. This 327, it's got a 268 Lanati cam in it. We upgraded it to electronic ignition. It's going to have a Holley 600 on it. The intake, we went, still looks like an original 327 with that front mount oil. We did change the oil canister out to a spin-on filter. Chrome valve covers, chrome pulleys, aluminum water pump, all stuff you really don't need, but it was stuff that we had, and it went on there. The motor was in great shape. What was wrong with it while it wouldn't start was the rings were froze, and it just compression was a little bit down on it. If I could have got it to hit and start, I think maybe it might have loosened up, but it was probably going to smoke and burn some oil. So it definitely needed to be rebuilt. But there's a new everything. There's nothing on this thing old, so when it drops in, it'll be ready to go. And as we keep the car updating, we'll be doing a new radiator and pretty much everything new under the hood to support this motor. So that 268 Lanati cam gives it a nice, good sound. Don't do much for the motor, but it gives it a nice, good sound, and it'll sound good on the street. So let's get to finishing this up. I need to find my socket wrench. I've laid it down over here. Yeah, as everybody knows, I'm a NASCAR fan, and they were racing at COTA this weekend, which it was a decent race. I do like road courses. COTA is probably not one that is high on my list of likes. My favorite tracks are the short tracks. I like Atlanta now, and of course I like the super speedways. Now I'll torque these at 45 pounds. Specifications on them might be 25, I'm not sure. I always torque them at 45. Most people don't even torque motor mounts, but about every bolt has a torque specification on your motor, so I usually follow them. Letting you know, talking to a guy this weekend that just put together an engine, and he had it was leaking, the head gasket was leaking, and he said he had a bunch of people in his shop when he was putting it together. He goes, man, as soon as I seen that leak, he took it out for a shakedown run. And he goes, I played back everything in my mind. And he goes, I missed that one bolt. He said, I know I did when I was torquing everything down. He said, in my mind. And he's actually going to tear it apart yesterday, and I haven't heard from him. He was betting me he knew exactly which bolts. So I was like, well, let me know, because that'll be interesting to know if you know the exact one. What a pain in the butt to, he's going to put a new head gasket on it. You probably could retorque it, and it would probably be okay, but it's not worth it. He didn't run it a lot, so that's why I'm saying I think you could retorque it and it would be okay. But I also think he's doing the right thing by putting a new gasket on it, because my big thing is you don't want to do things twice. And even though it would be easy to put that head bolt gasket on there, I think it would be terrible to have to go back and redo it if you didn't put a new gasket on it. So, but that's the importance of a lot of people, and I do this same thing too, when you're torquing down bolts on your, like I said, I always torque mine 3 times, kind of how I was taught. I'm not going to tell you that's the right way, wrong way, or whatever, but on the 3rd time around, we always use a paint pen, and that way we know when they're torqued. Now, if I have somebody in the shop with me, what I'll do is ask them to go behind me and retorque it, or check everything. I'm a firm believer you can't check enough. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you any stories. There's times I've had to go back and redo stuff because I didn't spend enough time making sure I did it right the first time. So now I'm a little bit slower and a little bit more methodical on stuff when I'm assembling it, just to make sure that we've got everything the way we want it. And we're not going to have any problems, because we definitely don't want any problems. I've got a short video of this thing running on the engine stand, which I will post on my YouTube channel. I think it's just a minute long. It ain't very long, but you can hear it on the engine stand. That little 268 cam sounds great. I think it adds a little torque to it. Maybe a little bit of horsepower, but it'll talk to you though, as my buddy will tell you. He'll be like, man, you want that cam to talk to you a little bit. So when you're pulling in a car show or something, they'll hear you. You want them to hear you. A lot of them old guys, that's what they say about a cam. They want it to talk to you. I always thought that was a cool terminology. So now on these, when you're torquing them, it's not a I don't really use a pattern or anything. But I usually do the one top. On Chevys, they got 3. And to the middle, bottom, and then back to the top. And that's how I do it. So we've got everything on it. Motor mounts. Flex plate. We'll be putting the carburetor on it once it's installed. And the exhaust manifolds and all that I'll do after it's installed. So what I got to do now is position all this stuff out of the way so we can get in here and drop this motor in. That's our throttle linkage right there. And I think we're ready. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I want to put the starter on. Where is it? There it is. Putting the small starter on it. Now, my experience with these is you've got to put a washer on it or it won't tighten down all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on before I install the engine. Of course, I'm doing it by myself today, so this should be fun. But I'll probably make a couple of 3 videos. This will be video number 1, just getting the engine ready and finishing it up to drop it in. And we're ready. And so I'm going to put this starter on there real quick, and we'll go from there. Okay, we got the starter on. Flywheel, motor mounts. We got everything out of the way in the engine compartment, so we're ready to drop it in. To make these videos a little bit shorter and where you don't have to watch so much or fast forward through so much, what I'm going to do is end this one right here, and then I'll come back when I'm dropping it in, which is a fairly simple process. But just kind of wanted to show you what we got going on, and so we're ready to drop it in there. And this is always the fun part, especially when you're by yourself. But it's always fun dropping those in by yourself. But you just got to make sure that you keep everything out of the way, which you'll see. But I'm going to end this video right here, and then we'll pick up when I'm dropping it into the car. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the videos. I appreciate it. Come back and see me.